So, hello and welcome everyone to another session of the Digital Marketing Club of the Shortcut. And today I have our special guest, Erika, with us, and I would let her introduce herself after a few minutes. But before that, I just want to talk a little bit about this session. So, I think we can also wait for a couple more minutes for people to join in and then we can start. So just to give like a bit of a space for people to join in now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would also check the different channels just so that they're all active. So how are you doing? How is everything going?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. The darkness is incoming, but trying to manage best as possible with the working from home,
Mhm.
gray skies, but it's life in Finland, right? So hopefully we will also get some snow at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Like it is already so dark right now and it's like 4:30 and I'm originally from Bangladesh and like the
Um,
time used to be, like 3 hour different and now it's like 4 hour different and like when I call my parents like after work and everything, it's like they're already asleep and it's just
of
so
course.
insane.
Yeah. So when did you move to Finland?
I moved 3 years back. Uh, I moved here for my bachelor's and then currently, I'm working for the Shortcut as a events and
Yeah.
community manager here.
Nice. Okay. Should we maybe start and see if somebody joins? Or
Yeah,
do you want to wait some more minutes?
yeah. I think we can wait for a couple more minutes for people to join in.
Yeah. Perfect. So what did you study your bachelor?
I studied in Aalto University in Bachelor's of Science in Economics and International Business.
Nice. Okay. So what is your plan now? Do you want to continue or?
I am actually currently doing my master's in information and service management, and my specialization is data analytics. So that is what I'm doing currently. And then, yeah, let's just.
Then we will see. Okay. Seems like a good plan at least.
Yes. I'll just wait for a few more minutes. Just 1 second. Well, yeah, I think I can start now. So for the online meeting rules and guidance, of course, the webcam and microphone and headphones and the webcam and the microphone doesn't work because we are now live. However, remember to keep your laptop and phone chargers next to you so that it doesn't die during the session. And then if you have any questions, you can write in the chat section and we will try to answer them while the session is going and not at the end, because we think that that would be the most effective way to answer your questions while you have the questions. And then, so a little bit about the Shortcut. So the Shortcut is the largest talent accelerator in the Nordics. We equip talents with the skills and networks they need to become an entrepreneur or work for a high growth company / startup. And today, this is a session for our Shortcuts Digital Marketing Club. So we talk about different marketing aspects and different topics on marketing. However, today we will be talking about B2B lead generation, and we have Erika with us today. So Erika, I will give you the floor to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your whole background and your
Yeah.
journey just in general.
So hello everybody. I'm one of those interesting people that have never studied marketing. Hi. I just started doing marketing, and that's where I am right now. So I actually started in event organization and social media marketing, and then I moved into B2B for SaaS business specifically. So I have quite a bit of experience there, and I work a lot. Worked mostly in sustainability related fields. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about. So I worked for environmental sustainability and quite deep technical projects. And after that, I also worked with other tech-related companies, and then I moved to B2C. So currently, I'm the marketing manager for Italy at Swappy, which is the fastest growing startup in Finland, opening new countries at a pretty high rate, and I was given the task to make Italy successful for Swappy, and I managed to do that with the help of a great team. So currently, Italy is the biggest market for Swappy, and I'm very happy to receive questions, and you can ask about B2B and also B2C. So do not feel limited by the topic of the session, since I think it's really good to have a conversation ongoing. And I definitely think that if you are interested in digital marketing, it's good to specialize, but it's also good to learn a little bit of everything. So I really wanted, when in my career, I always had the goal that I'm not gonna just stick to B2B, but I'm also gonna learn about B2C and other things, and then bring them together in whatever role I'm currently in. I think you can if you're in B2C, you can learn a lot of stuff from B2B and vice versa. So
Exactly. And also, like, I know that the people in Finland already know about Swappy, but we also have like kind of an international audience. So if you
nice.
just introduce a little bit about what Swappy is.
So Swappy sells refurbished iPhones, and obviously, again, it's a company that has at its core circular economy and sustainability messaging, because iPhones and in general new smartphones are a highly contributor to climate change, because the mining process and the type of materials that are required in order to create a new smartphone from scratch cause emissions in the extraction and production phase. And then smartphone shelf life is actually pretty short. Usually people change their smartphone every 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, and there is very little recycling done on these smartphones. So we have this industry where everybody obviously nowadays uses a smartphone, they need a smartphone, but then they consume smartphone at a very fast pace, and all of this waste just is not recycled at all. Or it's recycled in a very limited capacity. Apple has pushed for more, using more of recycled materials, but what happens to these smartphones after you have finished using them, or they're broken or anything? Usually nothing. So Swappy comes in order to provide a safe place where no matter where you are, you can buy a smartphone that has been not only tested but also fixed by repair experts. So we have repair technicians who know how to fix all the flaws in a used iPhone, and then we can input it in the market. So of course that means less waste. So all these iPhones that otherwise would end up as garbage, basically, they get re-entered into the market. And also, if you choose a refurbished smartphone over a new one, the environmental impact of a refurbished smartphone is going to be way lower, and it's also going to cost less. So the idea is to make this kind of technology available to more people, and at the same time reduce the negative impact of producing new smartphones all the time. And it is very much in line with the principles of circular economy, so reuse, reduce, recycle. And we try really hard to push this message with the idea that it is a very much growing market, and there is a lot of appetite for this type of new smartphones. And in the case of Apple, these smartphones are really good for a long time. Like, for example, we still sell a lot of iPhone 7, even if they are a few years old. So with a little bit of fixing, cleaning the phone and all of this, and obviously wiping off all the data from previous users, we can reintroduce into the market all these iPhones that still work perfectly. So even our promise is that they are gonna work exactly like new ones. They might have some aesthetic flaws, but they will work like new ones. And on the other hand, you can also sell your iPhone to us. So it's really like circular in every sense of the word.
Okay. So just to go into a lot more deeper into the topic that we have today. So how would you describe what is B2B lead generation in general?
So the main thing, the way that like usually B2B companies are structured is that you have a product, right, that you're trying to sell to other businesses. And in order to do that, usually this requires multiple steps, because Business products, I have usually a higher price tag. They're usually a bit more technically complex, and you really need to make sure that you're making the best decision for your business. So you need to compare different players, understand that they have everything that you need, etc. So when it comes to the marketing function in B2B companies, the main marketing functions are usually about generating leads. And what that means is that you do all these type of activities, which we are going to talk about, in order to make sure that the sales teams have people that they can reach out to, set up meetings, and try to sell the product. This is the way that many B2B companies operate. And I would really advocate that we should have a bit more omni-channel, omni-comprehensive view of the process. And instead of seeing the sales and marketing functions so separately, and having there is this kind of ongoing thing that there is all this conflict between sales and marketing in the B2B world, right? Like marketing thinks that sales is not doing their job, sales thinks that marketing is useless, and instead I really think that we should look at it in a cooperation perspective and think more about, okay, we are actually working towards the same goal, and these are all steps that needs to be integrated. So in a way, it's a little bit reducing to talk about B2B lead generation, because this is something that requires a lot of different steps in the process. And it's also something that every part of the company is kind of responsible for. So I definitely think that the idea of keeping marketing and sales into two separate silos is really not effective in any way. And sales needs marketing just as much as marketing needs sales. So one of the issues that I've seen very often is that, for example, you don't, like when you're a B2B marketer, you only have control about this lead phase, right? So you're required to give a number of contacts of business people that, or companies in general that might be interested in buying the product. And then it's up to sales to take those and turn them into, basically customers, hopefully. While I do advocate that instead marketing should be involved in every step of the way, so they should continue to provide value and help the sales team understand how to better talk to that customer, how to provide value to that customer, how to educate, and all of that. And you shouldn't stop doing marketing once you have the customer. Customer success and the B2B marketing should be integrated, because no matter what, you want to continue marketing to those people that have bought the product. And this is very true, for example, for subscription models, which is very common in the software industry for B2B, right? So you sell a subscription model and you constantly have new features, you have to understand what the customers want, you have to understand which type of product they are looking for, and also you have to offer always new new value, added value to the customer. So that the job of marketing starts way earlier than most B2B companies think, and ends way later than most B2B company thinks. It actually never ends. And I think with this approach, companies will be much more successful. And in my experience, it is a little bit tricky to sell this vision, because people are used to do things a certain way, and the sales teams doesn't want anybody to, interfere with what they're doing. And many CEOs or executives think, okay, marketing, your job is to just give me this amount of marketing qualified leads per week, and that's it. And I'm like, no, that's just one little step of the whole supply chain in a way, and you cannot think in such myopic way.
I mean, that is so right. Like, I had so many questions chalked down currently, but I want to talk about it so much more, what you just explained.
Yeah.
Because, always there is this in B2B, mostly, not we can also talk about B2C, but in B2B, the marketing team, they're you can always show, marketing team can say, this conference we did, or this show that we are doing currently, it would get us a lot of leads. You can say that, but being a salesperson, you can never say that 1 hour phone call would actually bring us something in after 10 years, or after 1 year, or after 2 years, or after the 6 months, whatever the time frame there is. But then for again supporting the marketing people, let's say for an example, one video like this or one article on LinkedIn can actually get you the lead that all the salespeople were trying to get for hours and hours and hours. So it's not dividing both of them, but combining together the forces.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of empathy from both of them and connecting together would be the actual solution to this, I think.
Yes, I agree. And I think there is also a lot of reliance in B2B companies on outbound.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is more like, okay, if you have a tons of salespeople that are making calls every day, that is the best use of your money and time. And instead, I strongly believe that the best way to crack that nut is to provide value. So the more you provide value to the people that you are interested in your target audience, in the people that might be interested in the product, the higher the return on investment is going to be. All that time that you put into cold calling, it's so much better spent into doing content marketing on LinkedIn, creating valuable research, sending good emails that actually add value, participate in conferences where you are bringing something and not just trying to take something. And this is very, like, it's something that I think a lot of job seekers should also know, especially in marketing. It's so important when you're looking for a job that you are adding value. You are not just there to ask. Of course, you also want to get a job in the end, but it's going to be so much easier if you think about the perspective of the person you're contacting and think about what value can I add to them? How can I help? And that in the long term is going to be so much more successful. And I definitely think that the more successful B2B companies understand this and they work really more heavily on the inbound lead acquisition rather than outbound. And when they're doing outbound, they really look at it from a marketing perspective. So they don't only think, okay, like the annoying people that you get on LinkedIn every day spamming you and be like, please buy my product. That doesn't work. We know that it doesn't work.
I think, yeah, and thank you, Elena. We're also really excited to talk about this because I also think that the sales whole conversation around sales, like sales calls, have also been changing. Like right now, people do not call just to sell, but to understand what kind of value they can provide to the different companies. And that is really interesting because if we look into the marketing teams, they have been doing it all their life, and now sales team is also doing it. But then as I said, because sales teams are like judged on the numbers that they get, so that is the issue. Like the sales team cannot just say like, I talked with 1 hour with this company and I believe that in 6 months they would actually see our progress and become our lead. But then marketing team can always say that. So that is a really interesting conversation.
And I think this is something that we can definitely learn from B2C. For example, a Swappy sales is marketing. So you're directly responsible for the revenue. Of course, this is not necessarily applicable in its entirety to B2B, but I do think that if you are feeling responsible not only for a number of leads that you have to acquire every week, but you're really thinking about, okay, what's the churn, what's the conversion rate from marketing qualified lead to sales qualified lead to prospect to customer, etc. How are we retaining customers? Why are the customers leaving? So having really a complete overview and not just stopping at one little part of the puzzle, that is going to be so much more helpful. And it's going to make you such a better marketer, because I think in order to do effective marketing, you really need to understand the needs of the people you are talking to. And that is a process that you can only do if you are very much involved in everything, right? So you listening to what the salespeople are saying, you participate in the webinars, you speak with the customers, you understand what the most common customer complaints are. Like you really think about it in a holistic way. And I see we have a nice question.
So Areeb asked, how does digital marketing tie into B2B lead generation? Are there any differences or similarities?
Well, I do think digital marketing is one of the biggest ways that you do B2B lead generation, basically. It's one of the tools in your arsenal, and I would say nowadays it's one of the biggest. So when we talk about digital marketing, personally, I think about all the marketing activities that happen online. And so that encompasses so many things, right? So that could be content marketing, blog posts, white papers, case studies, research that you're putting out. Then I'm thinking about website optimization, conversion optimization, SEO, which forms of sales landing pages are you doing, how you're optimizing them, how you are, even like UX and UA, where are you positioning your your buttons, how does that affect the conversion rate and things like that. And then, of course, you have all the social media aspects, so establishing the brand, the social media presence, establishing how salespeople are positioning themselves, for example, on LinkedIn, where most of the audience for B2B is, how they are, even when you're thinking about offline events, so for example, conferences or things like that, it's still so integrated with the digital marketing, because before a salesperson shows up at the conference, right? They should have a plan. They should have been contacting people online already in order to set up meetings. And that is something that marketing should help with. Marketing should have some ideas about what is the best way to communicate what we do to the audience that we want to reach. You are going to have some LinkedIn advertising. Okay, we are doing, for example, with this workshop, so join us there. All of this stuff. So it's an essential part of the B2B lead generation process. And I wouldn't talk so much about difference and similarities, because it's really like it's a part of the whole business.
Exactly.
So it's not different and it's not similar, but it's a huge part of how you do lead generation.
What would you say are the current, now I of course understand that it depends on different companies differently, but what would you say are some of the sources of lead generation for B2B companies?
Yeah, personally, I think the biggest source are definitely what we call lead magnets, and basically what that means is useful content. So the better content you create, that is like the most useful source that you're going to get, especially obviously for inbound, but it can also be used for outbound. So coming up with the unique, original research that actually addresses the problems that the target group has and gives them something that they cannot find just by Googling, that is your gold. And the more you invest in those, then of course you can create lead magnet pages. You can put it behind the form, so you can get their contact info. You can give it to salespeople, so they can have a campaign with it, saying, "Hey, you want to get this research with all this unique data. Comment on this LinkedIn post, and I will send it to you." And then, establish a connection with the people that you are trying to reach. So definitely, content is the number one. And I think it's like essential essential to have good content, and it's essential to think about one of the biggest issues I think in B2B is thinking about how do we educate businesses, because very, very often many B2B products, they solve problems that not necessarily the business is aware of. Or it's not aware that they can be solved that specific way. So you really need to do a lot of work on education. So you need to show, okay, this is actually a problem, and this is a problem because main reason you're losing revenue in some way. So I have to show you that, and then this is how the product solves the problem. So you need to do a lot of this education, and in order to do the education, you need to understand the market, but then you also have to offer really incredible value. I will give you an example, like one of the things that we did, for example, one of my previous companies, when it was in this sustainability business, we did this incredibly complex and long piece of original research. It's like, I don't know, 60 pages or something, which has unique data that you cannot find anywhere else. And it's many hours of work went to it, but that is gold, because it establishes you as an expert. So if you are in that field, you're going to want to read that research, and you're going to remember who are the people that wrote that research. And if you are in need of that services, that's what you're going to go to, because they are experts. And you want to have that piece of research, so you're going to put your email and phone number in order to get it. And then obviously that generates leads for the sales team.
Yeah, I think a lot of difference of like B2B from B2C is you do not actually need, a broad range of people, but you need a short range of people, but go in depth in that short range. I think that is
I think it's very different from B2B and B2C. In general, for B2C, what you want to do is to reach mass market, and that's because the brands that people remember are the ones that are growing the fastest or the biggest. So you definitely want to hit a pretty big audience in order to grow fast. And I saw that there was a question, I think there is somehow related to this. Yeah, and it's about YouTube ads for swapping.
Yeah, so I saw Swappy had been running aggressive marketing campaign recently, especially YouTube ads. Did that touch point generate lots of leads for your campaign?
Yeah, so when it comes to B2C, we are not talking about leads. At least for Swappy, we are talking about customers, so people that buy a phone from us. And again, the other metric that we are looking at is impact on brand awareness. So how these campaigns that we are running, do they basically bring to a lift in brand awareness? And how does that translate to sales? And yeah, definitely YouTube works extremely well in that regard for Swappy. So that's why we are being pretty aggressive. I know people sometimes find it annoying. I totally understand, but I can tell you if it's if that's aggressive, it's because it works.
Exactly. And I was also tracking like these different ads of Swappy in Facebook because it always attracts me so much. And they're like running these different, on different variables of ads for different countries. And that was really interesting to see.
Yeah, that is true. We have quite a bit of a difference between countries.
Mm-hmm. And then about the, also for the platforms, like what would you suggest companies to jump in, which platforms which are growing or which have been growing or which are already in the field for,
Well,
creating B2B
yeah.
content or generating leads for B2B?
Yeah, when it comes to B2B, I think there is there is a lot that can be done with social media that not a lot of B2 companies manage to do properly. Because realistically, more than using the company page, what you should do is to have basically every person in the company being kind of an advocate and establish this kind of social media presence that is gonna bring people, it's gonna bring in leads. So this, of course, affects salespeople, but it also affects CEOs, customer service people. Like everybody actually should really be doing that. So that is an area that is very hard because understandably people have a lot of priorities in their daily work, and focusing so much on LinkedIn, for example, or the Twitter presence is not the high on the priority list. But if you manage to do it well, you can actually reach a huge, really good results. And another area which I think is a bit underrepresented in B2B, but obviously now all the data is saying that this is the way to go, is video.
Mm-hmm.
So investing more heavily into video and taking actually also some tips from B2C, right? So a lot of the B2B video marketing is really boring. It's very corporate, it's very like standard, and instead I think are people, that's the one thing that B2B marketers need to understand. You're still selling to people. Yeah, they are part of a company, but they're really people, and you need to appeal to their human emotions if you want to be remembered, if you want to make an impact. So it's very important to not forget that your ads, no matter what they are, or your content or things like that, the tone of voice that you use, your social media posts, they're still reaching people, they're still reaching human beings. And no matter what, human beings do not make decisions based only on rational factors, even when it comes to being, ERP software or something like that. So it's really important to think about the psychology and the type of messaging and how to really have a good presence. So that is one area. Another area that is a little bit underserved is obviously, well, underserved in the sense of like how many people are putting effort into it. So email, like whoever tells email is dead, they are completely wrong. Email can have such a great is such a great combination because your customer acquisition cost might be way lower than with paid advertising. So if you're really good at email, you're gonna get great results from it. And nowadays you see more and more companies which have understood this, and some go a little bit into the direction of being aggressively clickbaity and or using those really bad tricks like showing in the title like you have already answered them, or I talk with the CEO and that's what he said, like from your company, and
Redirected from, yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think like in the end that is not gonna bring you far. It might bring some customers in the short term, but I think in the long term the best way to do things is always to offer value and not really using this kind of clickbaity techniques. I really hate those. I just report spam immediately when it happens, and unfortunately I love this.
Exactly. And what are your, I mean, those are like very good points. And I like just want to build on a bit of both of them. So first of all, what are your thoughts on buying email lists? That was like very popular before, but
It was.
people are not doing it so much. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a terrible idea.
Mm-hmm.
I know it like this happens and people are still doing it, but there is a difference, right? So before you were buying email lists just to spam, and now people are accessing emails because it's not, you can still find somebody's email from a company 90% of the time, right? But then you try to do personalized emails. And I think that is okay. If that email is public and it can be publicly found, it is a tool that absolutely you can use. Of course, you also have LinkedIn. So making use of LinkedIn messaging, email, that is, totally fine. But the time of buying mass, bulk
Just,
emails, I
yeah.
think it has gone, and it has also, like, marketers also know that it doesn't work. And it doesn't, besides the GDPR violations, of course, but it's not really the most effective way, because you are not segmenting the audience, and you're also not really thinking about how to better reach the audience with that message when you are sending email to 10,000 people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it has been very popular, but now I guess it is not anymore because of, missing the personalization touch on each and every message that you send to your B2B leads. And that is why I think a lot of people talk about, nurturing B2B leads. So, like being with them and having the correct message to them all the time, and then that real communication. I think all of these things came in, and like buying bulk emails and all of those tactics and tricks of marketing and salespeople has gone away.
Yeah, and then if you have access to CRM platforms, of course you can automate all of these engagement, and you can automate all these segmentation, personalization messages. It's also do with many smaller B2B companies. They do not have this kind of CRM automation, so they might have just a newsletter list. But you can still do a lot of things with that. You can still provide value. You can still differentiate based on, did they open the previous email? Did they click on the previous email? What did they click on? Did they turn into customers? Which kind of content resonates the most? So even if you don't have access to the full HubSpot platform, let's say, you can still do quite good segmentation. I'm gonna just switch on the light because I see that it's getting
that is absolutely fine.
Yeah, okay, so we have a little bit more light.
Yeah. This is good. And also, like, to build up on the another point that you said, about LinkedIn, are there any other social media that you would suggest for B2B companies in general?
So actually, I do think that one of the most ignored one is YouTube. And instead, organic YouTube videos can be really good, because think about it, when you want to buy a product, the first thing that you're going to do is like check a review on YouTube, check a tutorial, how it's going to work, right? And that's true also for people in B2B, right? So if they find a video that explains in detail, okay, what does this software do? How is it different? Like, it can be so much easier to condense that information in a short video rather than in a presentation and deck and long. You need also those, but I think it is something that is a bit underutilized. So really, in terms of the organic content, then for certain industry, like being like, let's put it this way, being on Twitter, for example, might be more valuable. I've seen also great results with like more industry specific forums. And that's another one where you can really give a lot of value and talk with people, get to know people, and people get to know you and your brand, and that is going to create long-lasting relationships that are going to convert in the long term much more easily. Another one is community engagement. So, for example, Quora is a good one if you're working in more technical fields, something like ResearchGate. I've had great results with it as well. But like Quora and general community, Reddit, forums where people are looking for information about wherever people are looking for information about the product that you're selling, or similar products, or the problem that your product is solving. That's a good place to be, and that really varies on the industry.
Yeah, and also like when you talked about YouTube, like it was all the time going on in my head that a lot of people don't do it because they think that, it's not professional enough for them. And then like that is when it comes, like when you said about, this whole like you are B2B, but at the end of the day, you are selling to a person, no matter if they work for a company, work for an industry, work for a brand or whatever. And that is why like this new feature on LinkedIn, like to add your stories, like it really interests me so much because people used to like bash other people for uploading pictures on LinkedIn.
No,
Just
it's true.
couple,
This changed so much.
just like a couple of years back, like people couldn't upload pictures on LinkedIn because everyone would like get bashed for doing it. And now
Yeah.
there are like stories in LinkedIn. So always having that more of a human touch, no matter what you're doing, and understanding all of those platforms where people are a part of community like Quora and then different community platforms. Those are
And
really
I think it's also very good whenever a tech platform, social media, whatever, is launching a new feature, the engagement on that is going to be much higher because they want people to start using them. So that's a great, like, it's great to be one of the early adopters of something. And in general, that is also true for businesses. There are people that basically their business is 100% just posting on LinkedIn, and they've created enough of the following that's how they make their money and get their leads in. So it's really something to be considered, and I think that there is potential. Like if you are good enough, you could even do B2B on I don't know, Snapchat or TikTok. Obviously, probably not for everything, but imagine that you are for example, you are an influencer agency and you're looking for B2B contacts, and you most of your influencers are TikTokers. Where are they gonna look for it? TikToker influencers on TikTok.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
even if it seems counterproductive, it might make sense to run some ads on TikTok
Yeah.
specifically for the older target audience that might be looking.
Mm-hmm. So understanding the context of the platform
Yeah,
and the kind of customers that you require, and then going in from there that, okay, so we require, let's see, like what can I do from LinkedIn stories? Because there are a lot of people who would be generating leads from LinkedIn stories because of the native version of it that they want to promote LinkedIn stories. That is actually great. And then there is another question, which is, do you need a big budget for the efforts of generating B2B leads? I think you
yeah.
have already, yeah. Mhm.
Like I worked with very tiny budgets or almost no budget. If you provide valuable content, that doesn't require money. It requires time and effort. You really need to dig deep and read research papers and come up with great content, and you need to present it in an attractive format. And then you just start doing outreach. You start like maybe contacting people that are active in the industry and other brands that might be tangent to what you are writing about, and be like, hey, I wrote this research about this, can I do, like, would you be interested in talking about in your podcast, whatever. So you can do a lot of organic outreach and provide value with very small budgets. You just need to invest very heavily into providing useful, unique content that people will want to have no matter what. So if you understand that is gonna bring amazing value. And sometimes it also can be a bit not specifically about your product, but more about the general thing. So Orbit Media is a great example. Like their blog is so much focused on marketing, is one of the best marketing blogs. It seems that it might be not 100% related to what they are actually selling, but it is adjacent, and people find them through the blog, and then they're like, oh, we need this service, who should we ask? Let's I don't, like, those guys are amazing. They create such amazing content. Let's take a look at what they do. And obviously you need to be mindful of the audience that and the market that you are working in. But as long as you have the effort and you are a good writer, I think that is also essential for B2B marketing. You need to know how to write compelling content and how to do proper structured research and things like that. Then you don't need big money.
Yeah. For everyone who are also here, you can ask your questions already. We will be taking in more questions. And also just to build on a little on that, because that is also very interesting and important, I think, to this point, that what kind of content do you suggest for B2B companies to create? Like, is it more picture form, video form, written form, articles, blog post? Like, what would be your suggestion?
So the first thing that you should create is content that you can use as lead magnets. So that usually means white papers, case study, research articles, things that you can put behind a consent form in which you ask people to leave, their email, some form of contact information, so that your sales team can reach out to them. So it is the highest priority. Like, there is a reason why white papers are so popular in the B2B world, and basically it can lead, like, it can become one of the biggest source of marketing qualified leads, in my experience. Then I definitely think that you should invest in, for example, infographics. That is something that is really useful as well. Infographic plus blog post plus video, like this kind of content that is like, you don't need to put it behind the wall, but it just adds extra value, and it's all combined. So you read the article, then there might be an infographic summarizing the main points for the article that people can share, and or they can just go directly there if they just want the summary. And then there can be, for example, a video tied in with the product, which shows how that specific problem is solved by the product. So I thought that there was somebody talking.
Yeah, it is fine. Then also, like, now understanding all of this, what would you say, like, the whole process from the beginning to end of like a B2B sales lead generation or completion? So how would it start and how would it end, and what would be the specific steps that someone has to go through?
So the first step is, like, you need to understand the market, and you need to understand which audience you are speaking with. And the best way to do this is to actually talk with the people in the company. So if you join a B2B company, first step should be go and ask questions to the sales team, the customer service team, the product team, the engineering team, and ask, okay, so first of all, who is interested in this product? Who tends to buy this product? What are the most common complaints about the product? What are the things people like about the product? What is your biggest bottleneck in converting leads into customers? What are the main questions that people ask? Do you need to sit in a demo to understand how the product works? Do we offer trainings? All of these, questions. And of course, this is very dependent on the industry. I'm talking mostly about SaaS, but this applies in whatever field. Or if you are in consulting, it's the same process. You have to understand why people are interested in what the company is doing, right? So once you have that a bit clear, then you should do some research. So you should understand what is the company landscape, what kind of messaging is out about the problems that our company solves, which kind of things people are talking about when they talk about the problem that this company solves, what are the common frustrations, what are some of the thought leaders in that field that you should follow, and you should see what is their opinion about stuff. All of this is like the background, the first step that you need to take, right? Then you should set up some KPIs and some goals that you want to reach. So let's assume that this is a more traditional company, and they just tell you, okay, we just want this amount of marketing qualified leads per week. So you need to figure out, okay, how are we acquiring leads now? Do we have any program in place? Do we have anything in place? What kind of customer data do we have? Do we have an email list? Do we have a newsletter? Do we have a CRM? How do salespeople decide who they are gonna talk? What kind of conversations are they having? What is the time frame? So if somebody downloads, for example, a white paper today, when they're going to be contacted by the sales team, how they're going to be contacted, is going to be a phone call, is going to be an email, which type of an email, all of this, in order to really understand the funnel that you're working in. And then you're like, okay, I need to grow this number, and I know that, like, the best thing that I can do is to offer value, right? So then you start to do research about which type of content have we already produced, which kind of content are we missing, which are, like, the most important questions that people are asking when it comes to these problems. Then also do keyword research, of course. So you have to understand, if I write this blog post about this, how is it going to rank? What kind of keywords do I need to include? What about semantic SEO and all of this? And then you start producing content, a lot of it, a lot of good quality content. And then you also have to kind of track and analyze what's going on there. And then you see, okay, this blog post is really working very nicely. So I can maybe do some more in-depth research, and I can turn it into a white paper, which I can put under a form, and then that can turn into a huge lead generation magnet.
Mm-hmm.
Then you should also review all the different flows. So what happens when somebody downloads something from us, which type of messaging they do, how do we keep them engaged? So if they are leads that the sales team thinks they are too cold to be contacted right now, how do you nurture those leads? How do you turn them into warm leads so that then the sales team can contact them? What do you do with people that don't want to interact, don't want to subscribe to the newsletter, or they don't want to have further communication from the sales team? How do we keep them in the loop?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of content strategy do you want to have on social media? So there are lots of steps, but the most important thing is, like, first you have to understand the market, and then you have to set up some goals, and then you have to test until you find what works, and then you can scale it up.
Mm-hmm. So also, like, in this whole process that you talked about, how would you, like, go into about tracking the whole progress? Would you like suggest any softwares or any platforms, or like what would be your suggestion?
Yeah, I mean, if you can get some integrated CRM that covers all the steps, so marketing, sales, customer success, that of course is ideal. If you have some CRM that can track the whole life cycle, that is great. Yeah, well, that's a problem.
I think there is
Question, Elena. The
this
main
is
problem is this type of integrated software usually tends to be a bit more expensive. So a lot of smaller B2B companies actually do it separately, and then they kind of tweak it. So one example, for example, I've worked with Pipedrive, or I've worked with Microsoft Dynamics, things like that, which is not an integrated thing, So you will have to do some more manual work and some automation. So one thing, for example, that you can do is, like, when so you create an automation so that when somebody leaves their email on the website because they sign up to the newsletter, or they download some piece of content, that creates the content in Pipedrive or in whatever CRM the sales team is using, and then that assigns a task to do something with that lead to the sales team, right? But then you might have then to have some automation in order to calculate automatically how many leads are you getting through your efforts. And you can easily do that as long as you have different landing pages. You can create goals in analytics, so you can really track the conversion for every specific piece of content that you have. And then you can also have different automations for different things. So, like, okay, somebody downloads one white paper is a bit different if somebody downloads every single piece of content that we have, for example. And then if they download, if they fill in the contact form, it's going to be more relevant than if they just signed up with for a webinar. So you have to try to do, like, take whatever CRM the sales team is using, because they have to have some form of CRM, and use that as best as you can to pull the data that you have from the marketing side as much as possible. And that is gonna require some tweaking, and you're not gonna get perfect integration of everything, but at least it's gonna help you a bit into tracking what's happening to these leads. Are they falling behind, which is something that might happen when you realize, all these leads, no salesperson has contacted them, for example, and you're like, okay, maybe why is that happening? Maybe I need to set some kind of automation for that. Yeah, there is a lot of difference between Microsoft Dynamics and us, but I hated Microsoft Dynamics. I have to be honest. I thought it was the worst software in the world. So I don't recommend it at all. But just in my experience, whenever I come into a B2B company, there is already a CRM that the sales team is using, and they are not willing, to change it or to integrate it with marketing. So you really have to work more on the sales team existing platform, in my experience. Then of course, if you can convince.
Of course, for some people, Microsoft Dynamics might be good because we had speakers from Microsoft in our previous session. So, let's
No,
not.
I'm sure for some people it works perfectly. For me, it was like,
Yeah, but I
very,
also feel like HubSpot is like so intuitive. It's just, it just feels like you know, much more intuitive. Just you can just go in and understand all of these different sectors and different segments and the whole game in it very
I don't
faster
know
than others.
money-wise if it's a good investment, because for a lot of B2B companies, HubSpot might just not be worth it, honestly, in terms of return on investment, because it is very expensive and it might just be that it's not that needed. If you have a smaller target audience, this capability of segmentation might not be honestly what you need. But I think the one thing that you need to find a way to do in marketing is count. So you need to know how many leads you're generating, and whatever way you do it. At some point, I was even doing it manually. So I completely understand bootstrap kind of options, but you need to understand that, and then you need to understand what is converting, and to do that, you need to kind of have some integration with the sales CRM. Otherwise, it's like you don't know what happens behind the step in which you send it to the CRM, and then the sales team takes over, and then you have no idea.
Exactly.
So otherwise, it will just kind of be this exercise in I'm doing my thing, because it has been said that marketing is to acquire marketing qualified leads, but we don't know, are they converting? We don't know, are they becoming customers? We don't know anything. We just know that we need this number, which is unfortunately my experience in a lot of B2B companies.
So could you also share like one of your successful lead generation campaign that you ran before?
Yeah. So for example, one of the besides this content that I was telling you about, we had, when GDPR came, and it was like, oh, we need to ask people to subscribe to our newsletter again. So how do we do that? So we ran quite a few campaigns in trying to figure out what is the most important piece of content. So I revamped the webinar offering, and we actually ended up having the biggest number of signups for a webinar in the history of the company. So it was really about understanding what the customer, like potential customers in this case, of course, were mostly interested in. And then it was really about segmentation. This was like list that was in the United States, so tons of different time zones, and also different interests. So did A/B test first to understand which heading, which type of email, which type of image was resonating the best, fixing the landing page, including more value proposition, showing testimonials and things like that. And then, once we see, okay, this is working the best, then we go with that messaging and see how many leads we can generate. So it was a huge number. And another important aspect of that was repetition. If you want people to sign up to your webinar, you have to remind them, okay, this is happening, this is value, and add different information and new value in every email. So you're not just repeating the same message, but it's like, okay, in the first email, I'm telling you what is happening, and I'm giving you some additional value, for example, a blog post or white paper, whatever it is. And then in the next one, I'm giving you new value, and I'm reminding you, hey, you haven't signed up yet. Like do so, blah, blah, blah. And then you also have to remind that the webinar is happening, like join now. And then after that, like you have to get in touch with the people that are attended and give them a personalized message and the thing that they wanted, for example, the recording or the presentation slides or whatever. And then for the people that didn't attend, also give them what they might want, so the recording or the presentation or something completely different if you don't want to give them that, but more like, okay, maybe if you didn't manage to join this, just join this next webinar or download our white paper on the topic of the webinar, etc. So in this case, segmentation really worked really well. and also understanding what the customers, or sorry, in this case, more like newsletter subscribers, whatever we want to call them, would be interested the most in. And you really need to be on top of the industry news. So you need to understand what is the status of the industry every single week, like what things people are talking about, what are the new things happening, the changes, what are the exploding topics, what are the concerns, is there something completely new happening. So you really need to be on top of in order to be relevant and to have relevant messaging.
That's actually a great answer, and I can like totally relate to that. And just for the audience, we have 5 more minutes, so if you guys have any more questions, you can shoot now. And also, I want to ask Erica, would you also be up for answering questions even after this session if anyone has it, and then I can forward them to you?
Yeah, sure.
Would that be fine? Okay.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay, so you guys can also comment, and we will save it for later, and I will forward it to Erica, and then she can answer it, and then I will get back to everyone. And also, would you mind that I would share your LinkedIn profile just for people
It's
who...
totally fine. Please share ahead. I'm happy to connect with whoever is in this. If there are questions, maybe again there is something I can talk about.
For me, I was thinking like also like how much like how can the process of marketing automation help in generating more leads, or like what are some kind of ways that you would suggest to use marketing automation to generate more leads?
So the main point of the main thing I would use marketing automation for is to set up follow-ups. So that basically means if somebody is interested in something you have done, you want to give them more value. And that's where marketing automation can really help if you have a marketing automation tool. So the possibility of following up depending on what the person is interested in. And you might find out that there are different kind of interest or customer personas that might be interested in the product or the service that your company is offering. So segment based on that, and then have an automated flow that just gives them more value based on that is super useful. And if you have this kind of automation tool that is a bit more advanced, it can be integrated also with advertising. So maybe then you can show them a specific ad at the specific time because they showed interest in that topic before. So maybe you can show them, hey, there is this webinar on this specific topic that you downloaded the white paper before. I know that you care about it, so please join. So I would say this is a good rule of thumb.
And also having it to such an extent that it doesn't go, it doesn't cross out the whole personal experience at the end, because like I did something, but then the marketing message came to me like, hey, you downloaded the brochure, but I never did it.
You don't say, oh, you downloaded the white paper, but it's more like, hey, you might be interested in a webinar on this topic. That's usually they are. If they have downloaded the white paper on that topic, they usually are interested in that topic. And if you have a new angle, of course, you cannot just repeat the same messaging, right? It should be, hey, like we ran this survey among all these industry professionals on these topics, and here are the findings. And you have like 3 main findings, and then you want to find out more. You want to find out what other data this came out from the survey. Just join the webinar or download this piece of content, etc.
Exactly. Wow, thank you so much. It was great. I could like literally feel the energy like you have, and it was really amazing having you here. And I believe that the audience received a lot of value from this. And also when we will post-produce this, there will be a lot of people who would be also watching it. So thank you so much for this. It was great. And thank you also for accepting that you would be answering the questions if we have any.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. I just wanted to add one last thing, which is I think I imagine there are lots of marketing students or marketing professionals that are trying to find a job in marketing, and I would really recommend that you approach the job search in the same way as you would do B2B marketing. So think about what value you can add. Think about how you're networking. Think about how you are, connecting with people in your target group, which in this case are like companies that might want to hire you, right? So apply those same techniques. Think about what type of presence you're having on LinkedIn. If you're applying to a job, do not just spam or
Exactly.
actually offer value. And that technique is gonna help so much, because if you show like you can actually offer something useful and you can contribute actively and you can solve their problem, which is they are having a job opening because they have a problem that needs to be solved. So show them that you can solve that problem by applying all these learnings that we have talked about also to your job search, and you're gonna see great results.
Yeah, I think it has to be like, less about this is what I will get from your company and more about this is what I want to provide and these are the values that we can share together. That is actually an excellent point to consider for every single person.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for being here. I hope that all of you have a great rest of the day. Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.